Day starts usually pretty early in the morning. Our shift starts at 7:30 usually. I come in first thing. I'll come to my office, check to see if anything is pressing right away. That way I can take care of it in here quickly, return any phone calls if I need to, check to see what we're cutting if I don't already know what we're cutting, and what needs to be done for the day. Usually from that point, I'll go to the mill. I'll overlook all the production by standing atop and looking down over everything, and then we'll just kind of go from each point, looking from one saw to the next, making sure each employee's where they need to be, each saw and piece of equipment is running as proper as it should, because there's so many moving parts into this. There's a lot of mechanical things that can go wrong. So you're all the time just checking things one right after the other, making sure it's running 100% or as close to 100% as you can get it. Clinch River Forest Products is a sawmill located in Tazewell, Virginia. We first became incorporated in October 1st, 2005, started production July of 2006. When we first started this place, $3 million investment's what we first envisioned to starting with. Well, we've kind of grown into a $15 to $18 million place, and that's been 6 years ago. Well, we started with a workforce of about 15 to 20 people, could produce maybe one load of lumber a day, as compared to today where we have a workforce of about 95 to 100, and we move about 20 to 25 loads of lumber today.
Lumber from our mill goes to the production of many different products, a revitalization of the furniture industry down to Carolina, so we've been sending hardwoods down there. Also cabinetry and flooring, you got the eggs for those. Hickory a lot for the cabinetry now is a big thing. Pallets, we use a poplar for the pallets. A lot of the lower grade lumber we'll use to make railroad ties for the local mining industry, and they'll use that. Then also we've actually gotten into exporting some wood to India and China. We do also produce mulch. And then we send a lot of the white oak logs down there to the Jack Daniels plant for the barrels.
Here is the first part of Clinch River Forest Products. As you can see off to my left, we have these two knuckle boom loaders, which what will happen is they will bring logs down from our log yard to these loaders, as you can see, and they will load them up onto this log deck, okay? From the log deck, they will go in here to the debarker. The debarker has blades that will spin around and rip all the bark off of the trees. That way the bark will drop down below to an outward conveyor belt and feed away from the mill, and the log itself will then go pass through the metal detector. That way they can detect whether or not there's any tree spikes, anything that somebody might have used during a tree stand, fence, nails, anything like that, to pick them out. From there it will go on into the mill to where we'll go ahead and talk about that process right now. Okay, now that we're inside the mill, where the log just came into the mill, here's where it'll actually end up now. Here you can see it's been debarked and it's getting ready to head to the scrag saw. The way that the scrag saw is set up is it's kind of like a jet cockpit. There's a lot of knobs, levers, and controls in there. Now what will happen is this log will drop down onto this feed belt to where the computer will then line it up to figure out what they can cut out of the center of it to make a cant out of it. From there, it will shove it through two standard saws that can be adjusted to fit whatever log goes through it. And then from there, it will get pushed down to the next phase of the production, and the two sides that get cut off of it will then drop down to a conveyor belt. If the sides cannot be used, they'll be dropped down to the wood chipper. That way we can make the chips out of it. If it can be used, it will be dropped off to another belt, which will then in turn go to a resaw, where it will slowly take the top layer off of it to make a nice piece of lumber. We're now to the very last process of our job. We're at the green chain of the sawmill. Once the lumber is cut down from the logs, it will then come out here to the end trimmer. The end trimmer will then cut it down to its certain length, between anywhere 6 to 14 feet in length. It will then drop down to the green chain to where, as you can see, lumber is already stacked on the belt, and it'll go off to its various cart. That way people can stack it and it'll be ready for shipment. Once it actually gets rolled back out, one of the loaders that is behind us will come out with the forks, either stack it if it needs to be, or one of the truck drivers will be here with one of the trucks and they'll load it right away and it'll be headed right out to its destination.
It's amazing how much a board gets handled before it's actually in its finished place, but it's a lot of steps, but it's a fun way of life.
6 years has gone by relatively quick, and like I said earlier, we've really expanded a lot. I mean, the workforce has grown tremendously, and to be honest, I could really see it happen again easily within another 10. Definitely no problem with possibly even going to a second shift. I mean, we have the orders for it, so I mean, all logical ends would seem to go to a second shift. I mean, that would expand your workforce practically double, so you would employ a lot more people in the area, and overall, I mean, everything would be paid back. There'd be no debts in the company, but at that point, we would probably expand even further, more machinery, more equipment, and so forth, and I really think we could do that. Not a problem at all.